Let me tell you about
Mischief Maker.
In spite of being pretty much Sega's answer to Rareware in their early years by making a few classics for the Genesis in the form of Gunstar Heroes and Dynamite Headdy, among a handful of other games for Sega's platforms, Treasure were fascinated with Nintendo's 64-bit console and decided to switch teams by developing their 8th game for it solely based on its hardware. This game would continue Treasure's goal at experimenting with genres and challenging their developers to present something new to the medium. Thanks to publishing from Enix, in the mid-90s they were able to fulfill their dreams with a staff of about 12 to 15 developers at a time and bring together a gem full of unique ideas, strange mechanics, and a bold direction that challenged platforming standards. One tied to the eccentricities seen in the anime art form with its presentation, and the same creativity seen in their other revered titles. With the help of a push from Nintendo, this game was set to be localized for and come west, with it being released on October 1st, 1997. While met with a bunch of confused looks initially, this is certainly a game worth revisiting and has amassed a minor cult following in the ensuing time it's been out. I'm of course talking about the peculiar experience that is the puzzle platformer Mischief Makers.
If you haven't seen my top N64 games list, this is on there. It's one of my favorite games on the console still, even as my opinions change on games from this particular generation. But this game stands above a lot in its console and in its genre to me because it's so unique. It's such an interesting experience. Treasure really created something special with Mischief Makers for a handful of reasons. On the surface, it's such a unique looking game. All of the NPCs and everybody that isn't Marina, or the main bosses really, has a weird look to them. It's such a bold look, that whole kind of dead-eye Gyromite, or Gyro from Animal Crossing Shy Guy look, really helps these characters stand out and be bold. But on top of that, even just picking up the game to play, it has a weird control scheme, which isn't going to be a running theme on this show, even though the first episode of it delved into the same thing. But the controls for this game are very unique and help it stand out amongst the crop of platformers on the console. You know, while most games, if not all others on the N64, primarily use the control stick, this opts for a classic style with the D-pad. And again, it helps it stand out and gives it its own identity. On top of that, the main mechanic of the game, the one of the things that this game is really remembered for, the shaking mechanic, makes this game an interesting play, because the game is built around shaking. You aren't much of an action person, you more spend the game shaking stuff and seeing what it does. You know, sometimes it makes things bigger, sometimes it extends things, sometimes it grows things out and helps you move. You know, each level has its own use for shaking, and the whole idea of the game is to find out what that thing is, or what each item does when shook. And it creates this interesting puzzle dynamic, and there's a lot of puzzling levels that you have to bend around in this game. This is also a really long game, and it's a challenging game at that. Not necessarily to finish. Yes, some of the levels are challenging, and some of the boss fights are hard, but the game itself is hard to complete. Treasure made this game a true test for gamers to complete 100%, you know, to get the full ending. You gotta really dig deep in this game, and the shaking mechanic is a big component of that. And it's awesome. I honestly adore this game. I love the very Japanese art style that the game has. I love the weird dialogue that's in the game. I like a lot of the boss fights, especially one near the end of the game where you fight literally using emotions. It's such a bizarre game. It's such a Treasure game. You know, Treasure are really good at taking an idea, a game mechanic, and making something interesting and memorable out of it. And I definitely think that Mischief Makers is one of those games. You know, I was asked by my buddy Evan, if there was one niche game you could own multiple copies of, what would it be? It'd probably be Mischief Makers. I love this game. I adore it. It's such a weird gem that isn't really a gem. A lot of people remember this game, or at least remember the look of it, because it has such a very anime look. But this is a very good gem in the N64 library. I like its weird controls. I like the weird gimmicks. I like the fact that it's a hard game to complete. I like that you really have to dig into the game and think outside of the box to get a lot of the game's deeper secrets. And I think that it's rewarding to do so because, again, it gives you the true ending of the game. You know, this is such a good game. This is such a fun game. It's such a funny game too. It's got some really anime style dialogue, and it's good. It's fucking aces. Good on you, Treasure. This is a game that I wholeheartedly recommend. If there's one game that I could recommend from the N64, if you haven't played it, it's Mischief Makers. Amongst the Marios, amongst the Zeldas, amongst all the other classic games for that console, Mischief Makers is both remembered and not. And I think it's also partly to do with the ad campaign. One of the ads for this game is notoriously very weird.
I played Greek dodgeball with a Virgin Diddy. Just me, Marina Light Years, and a lot of shaking. Oh, sure, those bees need their honey, but I need gold gems. The professor cannot wait forever. The evil empire will not allow it. So, where are you going?
And I'm sure helped move some units, but probably deterred people from the game as well because it's fucking weird and creepy. You know, it lays out the basic story of the game, but in a bizarre way. That feels very tied to Treasure's, you know, intrinsic style and sense of humor. You know, and yeah, this game is great. This game is really, really good. It was one of the first games I did a playthrough of on the channel, which if you also want to watch, I wouldn't say it's something that I think holds up all that perfectly, but if you want to get a taste for the story of the game, you know, I don't complete it, but I do a majority of the game, it's in there. You know, you get to see the weird levels, like the weird Olympics chapter that this game throws at you, the tricycle maze, the teleporting maze, the level shifting, like the gravity shifting level. There's so many weird levels in this game that actually inspired part of I love this level. I want to do one on my favorite level of this game, but I'm having such a hard time nailing down which one because this game is so memorable. There are so many memorable sequences in this game, and again, there's so many memorable moments. You know, there's the level where you're mixing the stuff in the pot to create these weird items. There's the machine gun-centric levels that are very weird. There's the fight with the bee. There's just so many moments that playing this game now makes sense why I love anime, why I love weird shit, and what shaped a lot of my tastes in art and culture. Because, again, I was exposed to this at a very young age, and I loved it then, and I love it even more now. It's good. Mischief Makers, it's a classic to me. It's a classic, again, one of my favorite games of all time, and gets a strong recommendation from me. But that's gonna be this episode of Let Me Tell You About. What do you think of Mischief Makers? Have you played it? Have you ever heard of it? Would you consider getting it after this? Let me know in those comments down below. I'm going to get out of here. I have one of these planned for next month as well, so hopefully you're excited for that. I've been Valrak. Thank you for your support on here and on Patreon. Want to give a special thanks to the patrons if you'd like to join their ranks. Linked in the description is the Patreon. Their names are in the credits after this ending spiel. But I have been Valrak. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like this type of content or any of the other music and general nerdy content I bring. You guys have good days, lives, and situations, and I'll see you another day.
You